thing what you have to do is leave the house. She said, but I'm a homebody. Well, it's hard to find love sitting on your couch. Good morning, everybody. Hey, welcome back to the hotline. And everybody pretty much know how this hotline works. We take tips. We just field phone calls. People just air out what they may have going on in their life. Just different things like that. And today we have a really hot topic. It's like a hard one. So we'll try to be careful with it because it's a real serious thing. I don't want to say the full name, but we'll say S assault or we'll say SA or SB or whatever. Just to keep it lighter. But I think this can be very helpful to some people. And on the hotline, I had requests to cover this topic. I have a caller that's going to come in today and tell her story. I don't know much about this myself, but I like to use the platform if it's going to help a person or help others. I would like to just, throw this out there. But it's a real hard topic because according to the site, this stuff happens every 68 seconds. And then they said approximately 1 out of 3 women and 1 out of 6 men experience this during the course of their lifetime. So it's one of those topics that a lot of people can have their personal issues with. And like I said, we're no doctors, no psychiatrists here. So I don't want anybody to think we coming on to give this advice. This is simply going to be her story and how she rose from it. You know what I'm saying? How she came out of this situation. So without further ado, let me bring up Corey and Sharrell. Good morning, Corey.
Hi, Perry. Hi, Sharrell.
Hi, Corey.
Sharrell, was there anything you want to get into this before we get into her story? I mean, because this is a real deep thing. And like I said, I mean, it's her story. I want to give this platform. Give people a chance to come on a platform and tell their real life stories. If it can help somebody, that'd be great. You know what I'm saying? If it just helped them, it's great. So
what I wanted to say before we got started is I appreciate you opening up about such a sensitive topic. And maybe it will reach someone. And it's always good to know how somebody came through something like that. I think that this is a subject a lot of people don't like to talk about. So I'm just want to thank you. It's a lot.
Aw.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Corey.
Yeah.
No problem. The first time it happened, I was 2 years old. And I was with my sister, and she went to work and left me with her boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And then he brought me home. My mother changed my diapers and found male fluids.
Oh my God.
I should say. And took me directly to the hospital. Mm-hmm. I don't know what happened after that because that came up when we had an interview for foster care because we took in foster children and that was brought up. And I was like, when did that happen to me? So I suppressed it for decades. I was a freshman in college when it when it resurfaced. And what I was told was they ran that person out of town. Mm-hmm. Sometimes in the Black community, we don't always go to the police. He knew not to mess with my mom because of her connections in the street. So he never returned. And then second time it happened, I was 12. I was at a friend of my mom's house and she used to do my hair. So she had left me in charge of her son, who was about maybe 9 or 10, and her nephew, who was about 8. So she had went to go to the store. She told me she would come back and that I was in charge because I was 12. And then I fell asleep on the couch. And the next thing I knew, my arms were wrapped around my chest. I was being held, and then they each took turns. And then I never mentioned it to anyone. I just recently told my mother because I knew I was going to do this show. And I don't know how I came through it. Most of us become abusers or we become promiscuous. I didn't either. I did the opposite.
Which is
I turned myself off sexually, period. So I didn't really want to even look at a boy or a young man like that until I was about maybe 19. And I just turned inwards and I turned myself into my schoolwork and my writing and my sports. And I think because I had such a strong family that I came through it without therapy, and I wouldn't recommend that. I still need therapy because I have PTSD, but I'm dealing with that now. But other than that, sometimes we just go off the handle. We just go crazy. Victims do. Or
how come most people don't say anything? How come? Am I
one?
It's your mic.
Sorry, go ahead, Corey.
Sometimes I know in my case I didn't tell because I knew what my mother would do. And I knew they were children. I knew she would run them out of town somehow. I don't know if she would go to the police or she would go the other route and talk to her connections in the street. I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew they were boys and I knew that they probably didn't know what they were doing, or they could have. I don't know. I don't know what their mental state was. I was just afraid that my mother would do something that she couldn't take back.
So is it a fair statement to say that most people don't come forward right away because of fear?
Fear and shame.
Explain the shame part, because how is this your fault?
Some people think it's their fault. I didn't think it was my fault. I knew that they were in the wrong. But just some people have a fear and a shame of someone labeling them loose, or you shouldn't have worn that, or why were you there alone with those boys and stuff like that. You know how we say in the community, fast tail.
Mm-hmm.
How long did you live with this before you told somebody?
Decades. I just told my mom yesterday.
Decades?
Yeah. I just told my mom last week or last month, and I told the world when I still had Twitter during Me Too.
Oh, because like with the Bill Cosby thing, that like these women are holding on to things like this for years, decades.
Yeah.
Like even like you're saying, now that it's something you deal with your whole life, right? The after effects.
I'll never get over it. I'll never get over it.
Why? Why is it something that affects you for the rest of your life? Because is it trauma?
Yeah, it's trauma, and the fact that it's the violation feel of someone coming into your own personal space and taking what's so precious to you. Because for me, I was going to wait for that person. It's not that my mom required it. We talked about sex openly in the house when I was a teenager. We talked about the importance of being safe and that you don't have to wait till you're married, but you have to be sure that that person is who you want to have your special gift. And then a lot of it, sometimes if you grow up Catholic, sometimes that will weigh on you. Some people. For me, I don't know. It's just like I was triggered not too long ago in an MRI because I begged them to let me have the open MRI, and this was just a routine medical test for something that I could have issues with, and I couldn't go through the 45 minutes. I had like 15 minutes to go, my arms were crossed over my chest like they were when they attacked me. And then at first I was asleep. And then when I woke up, it was just too much. And then I kept pressing the button for the nurse to come and she wouldn't come. And then from that day on, I couldn't trust her. So I couldn't finish the test. But good thing they got the images that they needed to diagnose what I needed. But it permeates every part of your life.
Looking back now as an adult, what would you recommend to some? You were 12 when this happened?
Yeah.
What would you tell a 12-year-old these days if they are going through something like this?
Someone touches you, I don't care who they are, how old they are, tell. Because 9 times out of 10, these 2 boys were assaulted too. So how do they know how to do what they did? They were taught. Someone taught them, someone showed them, someone had them do it to someone else.
You didn't tell a single person?
No, nobody. Not a boyfriend, not a fiance, nothing. And I just held it. I held it until Me Too. And then most recently, because I knew Perry had the hotline and I knew it was time for me to start talking. And I knew that this could help somebody. So I had to tell my mother in case she walked in the room while I was talking to you guys.
So you finally told somebody during Me Too on Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did it feel like a burden was lifted when you told?
Partially, because I still had to tell my mother, and who knows how she was going to react.
When you told your mom, you were scared?
Yeah, I was scared what she was going to do. Not to me, but to the boys and to their parents.
What was her
My
reaction?
Mother's, she was like, wow, I wish you would have told me. I would have handled it. But I see after that day, I refused to go back to her friend to get my hair done. I said, I need to find another hairdresser. I can't. I just can't. And so she never made me go back. But they were like family.
Mm.
We spent holidays together. I spent Christmas there. And I really looked up to her, but she had no idea what her son and her nephew did. She had no idea. So I didn't blame her for it. I didn't blame anybody else. I don't know. I guess I'm just a special kind of person because it just it affects me, but it doesn't affect me like some others did. I guess because I had a good, strong home.
But you still had to compartmentalize. Is that the word that you used?
I did.
Yeah.
I did for a lot. I did for a long time until Me Too started. And then I just tell anybody that will listen, because if I had came out and talked, the boys could have got help. They could have got help.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have found their abuser.
Now, I know you don't know, and we can only speculate, but let's just say the women in Bill Cosby's situation, would they have ruined their lives if they would have came forward?
Some of them could have.
Do you still recommend coming forward?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Some of them already had checkered past. Mm-hmm. So I think, like with Janice Dickinson, I think
right. I remember her father.
He chose her to do that too, because if she came out, no one would believe her, because she was quote unquote loose and slept with this one, slept with that one, didn't know who her daughter's father was, and all of that. I think some victims are chosen because of their circumstances. A lot has happened to me as a person, starting with the day I was born. I died twice and came back because I was premature. And then I was almost kidnapped 3 times in my entire life. So a lot has happened to me to break me, but I'm I haven't broken and I won't break. And then I
Is it
had the
safe to
incident.
say that your message is you can overcome anything, even something as severe as this?
Yes,
Or,
you
but it's a,
can. It's a
well, what
process.
about if you're a kid? Can you still overcome it?
Yeah. Especially, okay, if you're a child and this is happening to you, tell someone that you ultimately trust with your entire life and being. If you can't go to a parent, go to someone at school. If you can't go to that, go directly to the police office or department or any police officer or person in law enforcement you know. Because if you do, you could get help. I played a 50-50 chance in Russian roulette with my life, not telling anybody. Because I might not have turned out as well adjusted as I am. I still have some PTSD, but other than that, I told my son, I drilled my son on a daily basis. And because he does have special needs, I ultimately always asked if he wasn't with me or he went somewhere with someone else, anybody touch you? What happened to you today? Not let somebody touch you here. No one should touch your bottom, your butt, or your penis. You know that. And he's like, yes, mom, yes, okay, I hear it, I get it. And I kept him very close to the vest, very close.
But if you are younger and you feel that, oh, they might take me out the home,
Mm-hmm.
um, or I should have known better, it's easier said than done, right?
It is. It is because we also did with foster children too, where that happened to them too. I didn't even tell foster children, even the ones that we got because something like this happened to them. But the one thing I did do was because I was also the nanny as well as the foster sister. So I would tell them, look, if anybody touches you here, anybody touches you there, no one's supposed to touch you but yourself. No one. Tell your foster mom. Tell me. I'll get you help. Tell your worker. Anything. A lot of them, and some of them had special needs and couldn't talk. And then my mother became a rabid dog to get them from going back to their families. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. That law to reunite families sometimes hurt the children that is trying to help.
Mm,
Sometimes we had to send them back to those families
mm.
and that family member that did that to them.
Ooh.
So I did a lot of my life has been helping people and in service because of what has happened to me. I just threw myself into community service and service to others.
Do you feel that if you don't tell, you're going to deal with this? What are some of the consequences that you went through or that you know will happen if you don't tell?
If you don't tell and you got pregnant, then
Mm,
you're just dealing with your assaulter's baby, and you're looking at that assaulter's baby over and over and over again. And then that's an unwanted person in this world that now we have to find a home for, that now we have to find loving parents for.
so that's one consequence. What about the emotional? You've got this. What
You're emotionally stunted forever.
do you mean
Look
by
at
that?
Tyler. Well, for some people like Tyler Perry, he has a problem with intimacy, whether it be with anybody, whether it's a friendship intimacy or a man-woman relationship intimate stability. He was also assaulted when he was a child twice.
Yeah.
It happens to boys more than it does girls. So that's an important fact that people with sons, please question your sons daily because it happens to them more than girls. And for them, the shame is more than it would be for a girl, because it's their manhood now in question because of the way society is run. He has a problem with his son's mother. He's openly said they don't sleep in the same room. He can make the baby, but then it's the intimate issues because he doesn't know how to trust his own feelings. So sometimes you can't trust your own feelings. And then you get involved with the wrong people too sometimes. And then that leads to other abuse.
It emotionally stunts your growth. That's deep. Do you feel that you have to get therapy?
I think you do. I do. I'm actively looking for a therapist right now because it affects my relationship with my son. It affects my relationship with other people. Anything can trigger me. Anything. If you brush up against me wrong, I can be like, what you trying to do? I can look at you sideways. So it affects everything. I recommend therapy. I'm just surprised that I'm not a raving lunatic because I didn't get therapy when I was younger. But like I said, I always knew and felt that I was loved by my mom, my sister, my cousins. I just had a strong family, and that made me become a strong person. So you can survive without therapy, but I wouldn't recommend it.
It has a lot of side effects if you don't tell, and people can take them different ways. Some people could feel unloved. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes. It's like, or you could equate sex with love. You want me because I have this thing, and this thing that you want is what you love me for. A lot of girls get confused about that. I never got confused about that because I knew I was loved otherwise. I had positive male role models in my life, but the relationship with the father definitely impacts how a person.
Your father or your son's father?
Your biological father. It affects who you choose as a man to marry or get involved with. And it also affects how you're going to handle yourself after this happens to you. Because I knew that all men weren't bad because I had positive male people in my life who told me they cared about me, who told me that I was important because I was smart, I was determined, ambitious, and all of the good things that we're supposed to be loved for as women.
Do you think if you don't have that support, it's important to tell yourself these things to even give you the courage? Like,
yes,
I'm putting myself in a 12-year-old's mind, and I'm scared out of my mind, which is a natural reaction. I'm getting ready to cry, thinking about it. If I try to put myself in the shoes, and it's a traumatic. What happened to you is trauma. That's trauma. What do I tell this 12-year-old? Like, you're saying you're better than that. Wait, you don't deserve that. Like, what things do I tell myself as a 12-year-old to give me the courage to help myself?
Yeah. The first thing I told myself, the first thing I told myself was, not your fault. You had no bearing on their actions. Second, you're worthy. Your mother has told you you are a worthy person. This is not all you have to offer to the world. And then you will get through this. God will help you through this. You'll be fine. I just kept telling myself that. And then I shut it out for a long time. And then when I got into DV with my son's father, it brought it back up. And then he tried to break me so far down. And he tried to break me, but he couldn't break me. The thing about it is, if you have a strong sense of self-worth, no one can break you down that far.
I
Well, Corey,
noticed
I say
that.
this though. I mean, because I don't really say much about this. I don't know much about it, but
Mhm.
I'm truly sorry. I mean, for the pain and the trauma that you went through, and really glad that you found the courage to come out and speak on it. Because I feel like at the end of the day, it may help you and it may help others. And I mean, and truly wish you the best. I mean, because I know
Thank you.
it's a hard situation, and I'm not sure if later if you want to take phone calls or if you want to just roll through it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we can take phone calls. That's fine.
Okay. Good.
I have a question,
Okay.
Corey. I noticed that most predators and have a tendency to try to keep people's self-esteem down.
Yes.
Have you noticed that?
Yes, they definitely do.
Do you think they do that so you don't come forward? Why do the two go hand in hand?
They look for the weak so that they won't tell, because their ultimate goal is to keep doing what they're doing, because it's a power thing. It's not a sexual thing. It's not a sexual orientation thing. It's all about power and control. They want to control you so they can do this to you again and again and again and again and again. That's their ultimate goal. Is to exert that power over you no matter how. Oh, I'm gonna kill your parents. Even if they sell you, they're gonna kill your parents and do it anyway, because they got to get to your parents, get through you before they can kill your parents. A lot of kids fall for that. I'm gonna have you taken away from your parents. Fine, take me away. I'm gonna tell. That's another reason why when we had that discussion about ride or die, and I said, oh no, 10 toes down, you doing something wrong, I can't stick with you. Because if you doing something wrong like that, I gotta tell, because I gotta help somebody else. That's another reason why I don't hold a blind eye to anybody. Hi, Bungie.
Is she on mute?
Hello? She might be.
Okay, let me move this for a second. Let's see.
Is that Bungie? Oh, that's
Yeah.
Bungie.
She's on mute.
Oh, yeah,
Hi,
she's on
Bungie.
mute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing your story. It is so important. I am an immigrant to the US, and one of the things that I put in place when we moved as a family was not allowing my kids to just go to random people's homes who we didn't know. And my caveat is sometimes the abuse comes from people that you know, especially when you're looking at the grooming behavior that they subject children to.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people and children are abused by people that are actually known to family, whether it's an uncle, a father, or even a family friend that is now part of the extended family.
Yes.
Oh,
So true.
So much. Somebody in the chat is asking you to speak. Can you speak on, Corey, about people that have family members that do this? Do you know anything about that, and do you have any advice about that? Specifically a father. Specifically a father.
Okay. If this person's family member's father is doing this, they must come out and tell, because
Get your own dad.
Even if it's your own dad, you have to, because it's not going to stop. Sometimes it goes into adulthood. And you always wonder why, like when Bishop Eddie Long, some of these people were 17, 18, 19, you have to tell. You have to tell. You, even if it's your own father. Yeah, he'll go away, but you got they'll have someone or help that person find someone to take care of them after their father is gone, because he has to go because there's something wrong up here.
Yeah.
It's more of it's a mental condition. It's a mental disease. It's not, it has nothing to do with sex or sexuality. It's all about power, all about domination.
So if you're a 12-year-old, you can look at the situation like, my daddy's brain is broke,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not going to get fixed. And if I don't tell, he's going to keep hurting me. This isn't my fault. And you keep saying it's important to tell yourself this isn't your fault.
Correct.
Is that because if you don't tell yourself that, you'll take on you'll feel like it's your fault? I'm confused.
Yes. Yes. And as an empath, that was the hardest thing for me, because I take on everyone else's emotions around me. If you're upset, I become upset. Your energy makes me upset. I'm that susceptible to other people's emotions. So I'll take your emotion in, and then I'll regurgitate it back to you 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
So you must tell yourself, it's not you, it's not you, it's not you. And you must tell on your father, whoever that is. Tell on your father. Tell your mother. If your mother doesn't believe you, go directly to the police. If the police doesn't want to hear it, call CPS. I know it'll break up the family, or go to another family member. You have to tell, because if that person has siblings, once you are out of the age range that they like, they're going to go to that younger sibling or cousin or niece or nephew. It doesn't stop. It's a chain reaction. That one does this and that one does this. And had I had stopped and had I told those two boys who could be offenders now, it could be offenders now. I don't know where they are, because we disconnected ourselves from that family. So I can't take on the feeling that it's my fault that I let them loose out there. You can't take that either. What you have to do is say, this wasn't my fault. I should have told to help others in case they had other victims. But the problem is, you can't worry about other victims. You have to worry about yourself, because if you don't fix yourself, you can't be a force in this world to stop this from happening to other people.
It's powerful.
And that took a stint of 5 to 8 years as a Buddhist.
Hey, Bungie, do you have anything else to say? I'm starting to get people in the back room that may have a question.
One thing I wanted to say before I jump off is, not every situation is similar to what Corey went through. And one of the hardest things for children and teens or preteens, and for anybody really who is subjected to assault, is not being believed. And how you're already traumatized, but the trauma of maybe someone that you trust, or somebody that you feel should have protected you, when you come forth with this information and they don't believe you, that is very tragic and happens more often than not. And it's important to believe kids, because nobody will say this happened to them. In some instances, some kids might lie, but in most instances, and this is even assault with when it happens to adults, nobody would want to claim that as having happened to them. So as adults, it's important for us not only to listen, but to go to the authorities, as she says, and have them do whatever investigation is done. But at least we are there for those young people in our families.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Correct. Children must be believed. Women must be believed. Boys, men must be believed.
I think she disappeared. So let me bring up somebody else. Let's see. Oh, we got Jenny, 18.
Hi, are you?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. You're talking about assault
Yeah.
on
Yes.
children,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, so my situation might be a little bit different, but I had not a relative, but a religious figure from 7 to 10, very close family friend. So not only was he a religious figure, but my parents' good friend. So I believe, and this is just what I believe, he affected my whole life to where I lost my degree. I became homeless and I became an addict. And I grew up in a very normal upper middle class home. My brother was a corporate lawyer. I'm, got my degree. However, every area of my life was affected. And sadly, my kids had very strict rules, and if I could have, I would have kept them home 24/7, but that isn't normal. So with my son having a bit of autism or Asperger's syndrome, low spectrum, he wouldn't have told, because he just doesn't tell me when things are happening. So my rule for my kids was, and I know women are abusers as well, but it is men for the most part, but yes, women do. My kids were not allowed in a home to play if the mother wasn't home. They were to call me and I came and got them. I have a family that lived in our development that was amazing. The father in no way would have done anything to my kids. However, that was the rule. And if it offended somebody, it offended somebody.
Yep. I grew up with the same kind of rules.
I really, this man, I there is no reason in my upbringing. I was in Girl Scouts and I was, piano lessons and all that stuff. There was no reason I should have, like, I know addicts. I mean, I could go into why I became I really believe this man messed me up. And I had no memory of this happening until I moved to Pennsylvania after I graduated college to be near family. And on my machine, I got home from work one day from the hospital. I'm a nurse. And he left a message, and chills went through me and all the memories came back. I had no memory for 15, 20 years. No memory. I
Wow.
must have
That's the
put it
body's
away.
defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Hey, Jenny.
That's your body's defense
Wow.
mechanism.
But
That
Jenny,
you
I'm
didn't
sorry
tell it. So
Yes.
you didn't tell anyone either, did you?
I couldn't, because he was a religious figure in our synagogue. So what was I gonna? We
Right.
are now Orthodox, but so we don't have like a cantor in an Orthodox synagogue, but in a conservative, they have the cantor who does the singing, and his wife were my parents' very close friends. What was I gonna do? I thought it was my fault. I thought I went over almost every weekend to help babysit and help with the kids. I loved the wife. I really thought it was my fault.
Okay.
And it's hard not to blame yourself as a child. I gained weight. I was never overweight. I've had a weight problem ever since. I have 20 years in recovery. My daughter is 21. She was 1 year old when I got clean. I don't say that for people to say, oh, congratulations. Please. It was a lot of work. I let a lot of people down. And still to this day, I have family members who don't trust me if I need, if I'm having, if I'm having a little bit of money problem, they don't trust me. they think I'm buying. So
Well,
this
hmm.
man, I truly believe abusers don't only affect a person maybe sexually or they affect every area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Jenny, I'm gonna say this too. I mean, this is a deep, really deep thing, and I'm sorry. I mean, for your pain and trauma too. And I'm gonna try to wrap this up in a minute. I'm gonna give ACC a chance to speak, and then I want Corey to wrap it up and just give us the positive advice on how to sort of move forward with this thing. I mean, it's a tough subject.
Yeah.
Is ACC there? Are
Yeah,
you
I'm
there?
here.
Hi. Was there
Hi.
anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think like many of us in the chat, we're victims of sexual assault. And I've been through a lot of therapy. And one thing that trauma does, if the brain tries to forget the trauma, the body remembers. So it's not surprising when victims of any type of sexual abuse or assault turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms. Especially as a child, because your brain literally rewrites itself to somehow make it okay, and it completely changes who you are. And children, and you see this even if children aren't victims of sexual assault, say their parents are getting divorced, they blame themselves.
Wow.
It's just something that children do. And most children don't come out because they are fearful of being blamed, because we did for many years until the Me Too movement grew up in a society where, especially if you're a girl, something bad happens to you, that's your fault. You must have dressed a certain way or in anything in that respect. And so, I turned to alcohol. And for me, when I was a teenager, that's what I turned to deal with what had happened to me as a child. And mine was by a family member. And my whole reasoning for not saying anything was they're not going to believe me. I don't want to break the family apart, which I look at now, being as old as I am now, and that doesn't seem rational, but it does when you're 11 years old.
Wow.
So
Can I ask you, AC, how old were you when you told?
I was 30. I found out that it was my cousin that had abused me for so many years, ended up having prostate cancer. And I thought to myself, well, good, he deserves it. And at that point, I knew there was something wrong. So that's when I sought counseling and did a lot of the healing. And I had to come out to my family about it. And as much as I wanted that beautiful family moment of, oh, I'm so sorry, it didn't turn out that way.
Oh, wow. How did yours turn out?
They just said, well, back in the day, cousins used to marry each other.
What? Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was just it was like a slap in the face. And I was like, do you know what he did and what happened to me in my life? So, even then, my family wasn't there for me. Like I was hoping they would be. But as Corey and many people have said, is that when you have children, then you change. Like my children have known from a very early age what's appropriate and what's not, and that no matter what, we would believe you. We will believe you no matter what you say. You tell me the instant anything that makes you uncomfortable. Because trauma does change people. It changes children. And so if you've ever been a victim, and don't feel bad if you've dealt with it using alcohol, drugs, or even sex. That is your trauma talking. That is not who you are. You're not lower than anybody or anything. You just need to heal to become who you really are.
I really want this video to come in the hands of some child that has no one to turn to. What kind of advice would you give that child?
To find a trusted adult, whether it's a teacher or you go to church and it's someone in your church, because I had come out with my story, I was a youth leader at a church. A girl came to me and had told me what happened to her. And we were able to actually take her father through the court system and actually get him arrested. But she was afraid. And I said, I'm right here. I will fight for you, everything. So they need to know someone trustworthy in their school, in their church. But it's hard. It's hard. And I think it's good if this gets out there. I'm glad for the Me Too movement, for girls to know they're not alone, or boys to know that they're not alone. People will believe you now. We're in a culture where people will believe you.
Is
And
that what the Me Too movement is about? Tell, 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 and we will support you.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. I remember all the Clarence Thomas stuff. And my parents, I love them, but they had the thing of, well, what did she do? What did she do to make him do
Yeah.
that?
Mhm.
And it was like, whoa. And this is, my abuse had already been happening at this point. And I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So we are in a much better space now for children to come out and say, this is happening to me. And they will actually have a lot of people rally around them. A lot of people. Because 1 in 3 girls are sexually abused, and 1 in 5 boys are. So it's so prevalent.
Yeah.
You guys know I'm
Ladies,
emotional.
and I say this,
Yeah.
ladies, you know, I'm gonna wrap this up in a minute, but I'm really
Perry,
glad that you. Huh? Go
Did
ahead,
you have a
Sherrell.
question?
Huh?
Did you have a question?
Oh,
No.
no.
I have a quick question.
Oh, go ahead,
Did you ever tell Jen? Is it
Um,
Jenny?
Jen.
As soon as I got that phone call, after I gathered myself, I called my aunt and my cousin. And it just so happened he worked at my aunt's synagogue and was fired. Now, this man moved around a lot, but I called Gloria Allred, the attorney.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And because of the time that lapsed between, and nobody else that I knew was being abused would come forward because they didn't want to deal with it then. Now, this is like 15-year difference, almost 18 years, and they had, their lives, and they didn't want to bring it up, so she couldn't do much for me. But he moved to Florida after that, and I am scared for, he passed away from cancer now, but I was upset that I didn't do anything sooner, that I didn't remember. When I did tell my parents, I don't know if they didn't. I love my mom dearly, but I had to walk by his picture when I would visit home, going to my bedroom. And
Uh-oh.
I think she blinked out
Oh, we
again.
lost her.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna try to wrap this up too. I mean, but the ladies that's on the panel, is it any good advice? Like, I mean, anything you can tell somebody who's went through the things you guys have went through? Any way to try to give them some kind of advice on how to get out of it, like some positive thing to move forward with their life with?
Well,
Okay.
don't feel guilty. That's my big thing. Don't feel guilty. The guilt is on them, not you. It is all them. You have done nothing
I
wrong.
think all
Absolutely
abusers,
nothing.
all people abused have some kind of guilt. I'm not going to speak for others. I still have guilt today that I didn't say anything, that I didn't, I was scared. And I kept going over there every weekend, every other weekend. So I do blame myself.
But Jen, do you have anything like if you had to say something positive for somebody who went through these situations, a way they could try to move forward, huh?
Please get help, get counseling, speak up. It is an open conversation nowadays. It's 2021. It's not, 1980 where it was hush hush. Please talk about it. I'm not ashamed to talk about it if I can help somebody. I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed that I'm an addict. I am who I am. I do believe that he is the cause of a lot of problems because I won't let anybody, I usually, I mean, this is personal, but you cannot touch my behind. But but go get help. There are people who are going
Mhm.
through what you went through and you wouldn't even know. You
Yeah.
wouldn't even know.
And know that you are strong, you are worth it, you are precious, and you are valued.
And your
Always remember
kids
that.
today are taught
Mhm.
this. We weren't taught, oh, this is bad touch, good. We weren't taught that. My kids were taught that, thank God. And we had open communication in our home. They were welcome to come to me for anything because of what happened to me. I don't know if I would have been like that if it hadn't happened. But my
Okay.
kids could tell me anything.
Okay.
There's
So
I'm
always
sorry
a
if I
light
was
at the
negative, but
oh, no, you're fine. No, I was gonna say, because we're gonna wrap this up. I was gonna give Corey the one final statement, just what you
thank you,
thought
Perry.
to move forward. But thank you, ladies,
Can
for
I
really
just say
coming.
thank you for having this topic and thank you for your hotline. You have helped
Oh,
so many people. And thank you
oh,
for
Yes,
speaking
yes.
up, Corey. And I don't know the other
oh,
person.
you're
Thank you
welcome.
so much, Perry. You have no idea.
And thank you, ladies. Thanks, Jenny, and thanks,
Thank you.
ACC. I
I'll
truly
get out.
appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for this conversation. You guys are
Thank
always
you.
amazing in many,
Thank
many
you for
ways. So
sharing.
thank you.
And thank you much.
okay.
Okay, well, let's wrap it. With anything positive you have to say? And thanks, like I said, thanks for sharing the story. I mean, I think it can help people. Just trying to go back to this positive thing for somebody who went through it will be your final thing to say to help somebody move on.
Excuse me.
There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. You may think it's dark right now, but there's always a way out. And you don't always have to turn to something external. I know it's nothing wrong if you do, but you don't always have to help that person destroy you further. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. Always. There's always someone there in your life or in this world who will see you, who will hear you, who will understand you. There's always someone there. Never say, it's no one there for me. There's always someone. Like I told you guys, my son has, autism, and he found it hard to handle the lockdowns when they first started. And I found your channel. I don't think it was by accident that I found Sharrell. I don't think it was by accident that Perry started the hotline and that I felt that I had to help others. It's not by accident. Everything is all divine design. And I just want to say I appreciate you guys. You guys helped me through a tough time, and thanks. And if anybody's out there, call the 800 number that you see. Call your local health department. They can help you find resources and help for your situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Corey. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I mean, it took a lot to come. I'm glad you did. And we'll talk to you backstage. But thanks everybody for coming in the chat for this conversation. I know it's deeper than most stuff we normally talk about, but I appreciate you guys just listening, and hopefully these things can help others. So anything else, Shura, before we wrap?
No, I'm about in tears. Thank you, Corey,
Okay.
for sharing.
But like I said,
No
thanks
problem.
everybody. And on 3, let's say bye. 1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Love you guys.